we have a very special guest waiting for us,
Oh,
Megan Neyer. She's an
Oh, wow.
Olympian. She's a Ph.D. and deals with motivation. She's one of the most accomplished women divers that we've had in the United States. She currently is the at-large member on U.S. Diving, and she's going to talk to us about motivation. I'm hoping you guys can hang out in the green room, as we call it here, and maybe ask Megan some questions about how to dive or how to motivate the kids. Okay?
No, Megan's great.
Yeah, she is great. And,
Well, she's done some special programs for our kids a couple years back, where she came and talked about motivation, focus, and things like that. It was very, very helpful.
Did it help?
So anyway, yeah, I'm hanging out. I'm checking it out.
Okay, hang it out. I appreciate it. Melinda Miller says, great information. Awesome.
Oh,
Appreciate
thank you.
It. Thanks.
Thank you, Melinda. And thanks for the questions, Zach, and everybody else in Barb.
We have a couple surprises coming up. We may have a international virtual meet live soon, and a couple of more things. So next up is Megan Neyer. She's an Olympian. She's an accomplished diver. She's amazing. So let's welcome Megan Neyer. Hey, Megan, how are you?
Hey, Joe. Great to see you. Hi, Kurt and Jim.
Hey, buddy. How are you?
Great.
Okay, let me find their mute button. Okay.
Oh, wow. Don't tell my wife.
No love there.
So, Megan, a lot of coaches, because they don't have meets and competitions, and I'm having the same issue with my kids, they're not motivated. And I actually found the last couple days in my own practice that I wasn't that motivated. I've spent a lot of time on the basics. I built a pretty good foundation, but I need that little extra boost. I need that meet. I need that competition. I need that state championship. I need that region meet. I need something so I have a goal so I know where I'm going to. And right now, I don't know if I'm going to be shut down in a month or a week or whatever. Can you give me some advice?
Yes. Well, this whole COVID situation has really called upon all of our ability to be resilient. And that's actually what I would like to talk about, because we all have resilience muscles. And when we're confronted with challenge, we have a tendency to enlist those muscles, and it's very normal for us to go to our strong muscles first. That's just what our tendency is to do, right? And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about resilience. A lot of people talk about resilience. I think the common definition of it is to bounce back. But I have a little different definition of it. Actually, a colleague of mine, Dr. Linda Hoops, has studied resilience an extensive amount. And so I just wanted to share some new ideas with you about the concept of resilience and what we're facing, and how you can build those resilience muscles in order to get more motivation and to meet the challenges that this ongoing challenge that, it's not like you can go to the adults because they'll have the answer, because we haven't been through it either, right? And so we're all figuring it out as we go. And I've seen some incredibly creative ideas, and some of the things that Kurt and Jim and you talk about, Joe. And Joe, I've seen you, your work on the board, and coming up with some incredibly creative things. And that's certainly one of the resilience muscles. So I just wanted to share a little bit about resilience to get people thinking about it in a different way. Okay. So bear with me just a moment. I am going to pull up a PowerPoint presentation, hopefully successfully. All right, just want to make sure that you're seeing what I'm seeing.
Got nothing yet. There we go.
Okay.
Good picture, Meg.
No, thanks. So What is resilience? So again, we've all heard that concept of bouncing back, but Linda's definition of it is the ability to deal with high level of challenge and disruption while maintaining high levels of effectiveness and well-being. In other words, stuff comes at us, but we can still be effective, and so we can adapt quickly and effectively, and we can thrive in these challenging times and use these challenges to grow stronger. So we've had all sorts of opportunities to grow stronger and tolerate change better. And so we're really looking at, when the challenge begins, how much energy are you expending before the challenge is resolved? And so a big factor in that is the role of expectations. And we build these mental models of the world, and these lead to expectations. And the expectations may or may not be realistic, and they take the form of predictions, wishes, hopes, desires. You all were talking about meets. Well, we're used to a certain cycle in our diving life, right? This is the time, early fall is that time, late summer, early fall is that training time. And then we start getting more into meet mode. And then we have high school season, and then we get into USA diving season and AAU and so all of our things that are predictable in our lives have been fairly upended. So let's talk about some ways to handle that a little more effectively. So, smaller gaps in our expectations and reality use less energy, while these very large gaps use a lot of energy. And energy management is really the key to optimization. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So one of the things about COVID, you got to look at the source of and the duration of the disruption. And none of us chose this. And at the very least, we would call this stuff happens, right? We don't know if it's others' actions, but we do know for sure it was a stuff happens thing. And we thought it might last days, weeks, months. And now we don't know how long this thing is going to last, or when we can go back to the life that we used to know. And so we really look at this challenge map, like, how big is this challenge? Yeah, I've been working with people all throughout this COVID experience, and for some people, it's really given them an opportunity to kind of get off the rat wheel and look at their life and recalibrate and look at what really matters to them, and so look at things differently. So for some people, it has really been, nobody's ever going to say, "Yay, COVID happened," but some people really have had an opportunity to look at their lives differently, which they might not have had they not been completely shaken. And then other people, it's been pretty awful. So there's been a pretty vast experience level with COVID. And we have four sources of energy. We have our quantity, or our physical energy. And then we have our emotional energy, which is our quality of energy, from negative to positive. And we have our mental energy, which is our focus of energy. And then spiritual is really our force and alignment. So when you guys are talking about, like, the meat, and we really got to look at what are we connected with diving that's keeping us engaged despite these ongoing challenges of pool time, of, are we going to get shut down? When are we going to be able to have meets again? I mean, a lot of people dive because they just love being around their friends and they enjoy the social aspect of it. And so we got to look at all of these areas of energy and see how they interrelate to one another, and how we can get better focus and use our physical energy effectively. And this has certainly had an emotional toll on us. It's not natural for particularly the kids that we coach and work with to sort of grow up in isolation. And so we're trying to figure all of that out. So more resilience, it takes more to disrupt you, and you have less energy as expended, and you're more productive, and you have quicker recovery. So everybody's got these resilience muscles, and some are stronger than others. And just like with diving, regular practice helps develop those muscles. And we can't develop any muscles without challenge. So the first resilience muscle is positivity, which is identifying opportunities and hope in challenging situations. Well, I just heard you guys, I've heard some incredibly positive ideas about, okay, what are we looking to in the future? And how do we keep motivation up and getting super creative? And I know that we've all been kind of zoomed to death over the past 8 months, but I think a lot of people have gotten more savvy. I think a lot of people have rethought about how to do things. And so again, I think it's kind of really forced us to rethink maybe some of the ways that we're kind of stuck in our ways of thinking about things. Confidence, recognizing and using your skills and abilities. Again, none of us has the past experience of having lived through a pandemic. And so we're gaining more confidence, hopefully, as we go through this, about how to handle it. Priorities, identifying and paying attention to the most important things. Again, when we're doing our day-to-day life, we have selected what matters to us. School, coaching, diving. Working with my clients. And we have figured out our schedule. And so our schedules have all been blown to, kingdom come this past 7-8 months. But the first thing I started talking to my clients about was like, okay, let's really get clear on what matters and let's focus on that, even though it doesn't look like how it used to look like. And creativity. I don't know about you guys, but boy, I've seen some incredibly creative things. And I, again, heard them from Kurt and Jim and heard some fabulous ideas from Joe about, what do we do? And so we're doing Zoom meets and we're doing skill meets and we're doing, ways of getting their energy up and excited and focused and kind of back into competition mode without that kind of like normal competition. So creativity, I've seen some wonderfully creative ideas, and I've really encouraged people to get creative about managing things. Connection. Well, again, our normal ways of connecting with people kind of got shut down there pretty considerably for a while. And so, how have we connected? Zoom, social distancing on the driveway. Have we done celebrations? Well, there have been car drive-bys and socially distanced celebrations. And so again, people are figuring out how to stay connected. Granny's learning how to use the Zoom and the iPad and such. Structure. This was another thing I really encouraged people because, right at first, a lot of my teen clients were just like, oh, I'm going to go to bed at 2 a.m. and get up at noon. And so I just said, let's develop some structure. So because the more that you get out of any kind of routine and structure, the more disrupted you are. So structure is another muscle. So as I go through these, experimenting, trying new and different approaches, and I'm sure, again, coaches by nature really need to be creative. Because not all kids respond the same way to the same input. And so coaches are some of the most creative, experimenting people I've ever met. So again, these different muscles. So I want you to just think for a moment about your, like what are your go-to ones and what are the ones that maybe aren't as strong? And Joe is going to put up on the website, or Joe, you can correct me about where it's going to be, but I'm going to send out a little mini assessment. So you can he'll post an assessment. He's also going to post this PowerPoint. About you figuring out your own resilience muscles and what's stronger and what's weaker and what do you want to work on and what do you want to optimize. So positivity, confidence, priorities, creativity, connection, structure, experimenting. So if anybody wants to just, pop in right now and say, hey, I feel like this is a really strong muscle for me and this is how I've used it, feel free to do that. So anybody got comments? Okay. So I don't know whether I can't. No. Okay. There you go, Kurt.
Okay, great. I mean, I've been on the board of directors with you for the last several years, and I always see you coming to every meeting with a great sense of where we're at and where we're going. So you obviously have a game plan, far-reaching as far as where the path is. I know with COVID and all that kind of stuff, it blows things out of the water. We're all dealing with sort of finding a new path and how to engage again in something that will not be exactly as it was before. It's a new, I hate to say new normal because it's you know, it's a catchphrase, it's tired, but there is a new experience that we're going to have as we move forward, because I don't think it will ever be as it was as we move forward. As far as look at the professional sports teams, you know, there's nobody in the stands, and there's such an energy that athletes feed off of that. Any competition
Right.
that we have moving forward is probably going to have judges, coaches, and divers exclusively on deck. But the good news is they're moving forward in that the NC2As is talking about having an NC2As. So there
Yeah.
are people that
Yeah.
are looking for how do we not lose out on the things that we know
Right.
we need to do. So I'm excited
Right.
about that, and you're always thinking along those lines, which I appreciate.
Yeah, well, thank you, Kurt. I mean, again, this comes back to expectations, and the first thing is we got to deal with what is, right? It is, and if we just get stuck in the this is a bummer and this is ruining my life, then we just are going, we just wind up in a big old toilet bowl swirl. And so it is what it is, and we got to move forward. And we're just figuring out our life. I mean, there's some things with this that have caused what I call, creative destruction. And sometimes that we got to burn it down, and then so we can see the sky and then build it back up. And I don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet, but we're figuring that out. Okay.
No, I
And
absolutely get that. I get that sense. Absolutely. In fact, Joe contacted me the other day about doing basically a Zoom competition, which is brilliant. I mean, there's so
yeah,
many good things that can lead to in the future. Maybe we have a financial situation where people can't travel everywhere, and we could have a competition where we can, choose a traveling team based on, a competition that's aerial. So I think it's good to use the technology that we have. Imagine this pandemic, 20 years ago without the internet or things like that. It would be insane.
right.
We can stay connected, and we can actually learn from things. I've learned so many
Right.
things because of the time element that I've had.
That's right. And so again, I think we got to look at how do we optimize what we do have, because people start focusing on the don't as compared to focusing on the do. So and we'll talk about that a little bit more. So I appreciate you bringing that up. But again, creativity, I have really seen this muscle being flexed in some wonderful, wonderful ways. And people are discovering they really do have that creative muscle. And when you get together with fellow coaches and share ideas, then we all, all boats rise.
Well, also, I think coming from the fact that you've had experience in this sport, and you are knowledgeable in your studies and the clients you work with, you bring such a unique perspective to the board of directors, and also to helping to guide the sport of USA diving. And I really appreciate your efforts. You did a great job with the kids. Like I said, you did some seminars and things like that with us several years ago, and the kids get so much out of it. It was just really a blessing. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Kurt. Of course, diving is very near and dear to my heart, and I want to do everything I can and bring all of my personal and professional experience to enable coaches and divers of this generation and future generations to have a fantastic experience in the sport. So I'm deeply grateful for the opportunities that I've had, and I want to do everything I can to enable the current and future generations to be able to have fantastic opportunities as well in a healthy way to experience their life and learn about how to do life beyond diving. So I really appreciate
Megan,
you do that.
Anybody that's been involved in diving for a long time, as you and I and Joe have, truly realize the value of the sport goes way beyond the sport. And
Yes.
I think that's the thing that's critical. That's the thing that keeps us getting out of bed in the morning and getting excited to get to the pool and to share something with somebody that has meant so much to us as far as our personal development and how we view the world. So I appreciate that.
Hey, Megan,
Well,
if I can ask a personal question here that
sure.
ties this all together, what we're talking about.
Hmm.
Our divers were denied, at least for now, to go to Tokyo. You were on the 1980 team that was denied any opportunity. How did that sit with you versus, let's say, the 84?
When you say right now they're denied,
Well,
what
they're
you mean
denied
they're
this
denied in
summer,
2020? Okay,
and
I'm
we
sitting
hope
there.
to have Tokyo next summer.
Right. Right. Well, I actually wrote a piece about that, and I'll send you that piece, Joe. And if you want to post that as well, where you're going to post the other information, I come back to, it's the old uh, um, Rolling Stones song. You can't always get what you want, right? Well, it might not have been Rolling Stones. Who is that, Kurt?
It was Rolling
Who sang?
Stones. Yeah.
Rolling Stones.
But if you try sometimes,
It
you
is
get what you
Rolling
need.
Stones.
Yeah,
Okay.
you too.
Yeah, you
You
nailed
can't
it.
always get what
Remember
you
that,
want, but
Megan.
you get what you need. And, 1980 had certainly never happened in the U.S. I mean, because when people didn't go to the Olympics, or at least when the U.S. didn't go to the Olympics, it's because it didn't happen at all. It wasn't a boycott experience. And so, um, so it just, again, I mean, it was like nobody planned for COVID, nobody planned for a boycott. And so again, you focus on things you have control over. You look at the sport for what it brings you, and at the end of the day, you really focus on the process more than the outcome. Because I think if people don't ever have another meet, it's going to be a bummer. But I still think there's a tremendous amount to be learned from diving. And I think every day you're learning about how to manage fear, and you're learning about how to gain confidence in your ability, and how to support other people, and how to interact with an authority figure, a coach. And so I just think there's way, way, way more to diving than just, meet after meet. I think you can gain a tremendous amount from sport. That competitive element is an important one, but it isn't the only thing that matters. And so, we all talk about the reason we get up in the morning and do what we do is because we love helping other people develop and have the opportunity to think about what's next for them in their lives. Because for most of us, we're not going to dive the rest of our lives. So, I mean, diving might be a part of our lives, but that's not generally how a lot of people are going to make a living. So, well, I wanted to go on. I'm going to pass up a few things. Answer this question. So complete the sentence. Everything happens like what? How do you respond to that? Everything happens.
Who are you
Who do
talking
you
to?
want to answer that?
Whoever.
I think that was meant
That
for
sounds like a
Kurt.
joke question.
Well, everything
What
happens
is
for a reason.
what's the common
question is,
response
do
to
we
that?
come up
Well,
with the
everything
reason
happens for a
after
reason.
they?
Or you could just say everything happens, period.
Well, you could. Yeah, the most common response to that question is everything happens for a reason. And what I say to that is everything happens and we give it a reason. So how we look at things determines how we then behave. Okay. So we have 3 strategies for resolving this kind of disruption. We reframe the challenge. So we turn the challenge into an opportunity. Okay, well, we've been challenged with pool time. We've been challenged with people being able to get together. We've been challenged. I mean, like, holy cow, the list of challenges has been long. And so we reframe the challenge. So that's what I'm hearing you guys do. Okay, who would have ever thought we'd have a Zoom meet? Well, we're going to do it. And I think it's going to be cool, and we're going to figure out how to have fun with it. And so, I mean, I think that's a fantastic reframe. Change the situation. What can we do to change the situation? And well, if you guys are doing everything you can to not necessarily change COVID, but to change the situation of the impediments that have been put in front of us. And accepting what is. Again, it is what it is. And we can hope and dream and wish and want, but the first thing that's really important is accepting that it's happening, and let's figure out what we can do about it. So, my rules for changing your mind. Rule number 1, energy follows your thoughts. Rule number 2, focus on what you do want to do, not what you don't want to do. And so if I'm standing up on the 10-meter and going, oh my God, I don't want to wipe out, or I don't want to get lost, then my energy is focused on what? Getting lost.
Get lost. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to focus on the do, get my arms through, keep my head down, see my spot, kick. I mean, I don't encourage you to think about that many things, but focus on, 1 or 2 key things that if you do those things, the probability that you'll get down on your head is high. And then focus on factors within your control or the process. Okay. We cannot control COVID, but we can control our exposure. We can control if we choose to wear masks. We can control whether we get together in groups responsibly, or, we keep the social distance. And so you focus on the process, and we're going to get through this. It may not be today or tomorrow, but we can still have some semblance of our lives. Like I just watched a video of Joe and how they're handling masks in practice. And again, very creative, adaptive, and people are able to dive despite the fact that we're going through this. And so the more creative we get, and also being reasonable, and being making sure we're being responsible about our choices, we can get through this and still have our lives going on, and still learn and grow. So, I just wanted to say a few words about grief. We are kind of grieving the life we used to have. And so I just want you to be aware that that may be a factor in the background. And sometimes your kids may be crankier, or you may be crankier. And I think it's just important to kind of go, yeah, I miss the life I had, and to let it be okay to feel sad about it, because we don't want to just glaze over people's feelings. We just don't want to live in it. And so just be mindful that, we all kind of miss the life we had in some way or another, and we're figuring out how to create a new life. And I have a sign on my office door that says, honor the space between no longer and not yet, which is, I think, a really, it's kind of where we're all at, where we aren't living the life we used to live, and we haven't quite figured out what the next thing looks like. So, what can you do to get more motivated or overcome barriers? You still have to have goals. I mean, despite the fact that we don't have some of the typical goals immediately in front of us that we're used to, this meet, that meet, this qualification, that potential opportunity, this trip, that trip, there's still things to get focused on that you have some control over putting your energy towards. And surround yourself with people who support your goals, not people who are trying to, say, well, this COVID thing, well, screw your goals, right? So just remember the rules. Energy follows your thoughts. Focus on what you do want, not what you don't want. Focus on things under your control. And, we all have these energy. I mean, I don't know about these energy demands, and we really have to do recovery. And I don't know about you, but boy, at first, when we started doing the whole Zoom thing, it was pretty exhausting. And then I learned more tools myself about how to manage it. Like I've got blue light glasses on, which really helped reduce the strain. And so that helped with my energy. So I learned how to space my appointments apart a little bit, so I had time to get up and move around and recover. And so I just had to learn some new things based on the current circumstances.
Megan?
And so, Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about things to do, and we have somebody calling in. Rich
Okay.
McDonald, the U.S. Naval
Good.
Academy coach. His
Yeah.
first appearance here. I don't think he was planning it. Okay. Congratulations on your guys going what, 1, 2, 3, 4 at the last meet. Well, this is where you turn your audio on.
Correct.
All
This
right.
is the audio portion of the
Yeah.
program.
So you said that you're playing games with your divers to keep them involved.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you, Megan, for all your help with changing the guidelines for military academies to go to Olympic
My
trials.
my
That
pleasure.
was awesome working with you there.
Wait.
Thank
Hold it.
you.
Hold it. I didn't know about this. What did Megan do?
Yeah,
We
let's hear
Yeah.
about
changed
this.
guidelines to make it a little bit easier for military academies to be able to attend Olympic trials.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yes, we changed the rules. We worked on changing some rules because when kids are in the military academies, they have certain things that they can't get out of and might have to miss qualifying meets. And so there was just no way to accommodate that. So we worked on a rule change that helped it make it possible for those who would be able to qualify for certain meets to be able to do that without going to a pre-qual meet,
Oh,
a qualifying meet. So yeah, that was very important to me because our military members, I mean, I worked at the Air Force Academy and also worked collaboratively with the Naval Academy and West Point, and became very familiar with the challenges that particular population faces, and so wanted to do everything I could to support their service to our country and as well as their interest in diving. And so Rich and I worked it out.
huh. So, Rich, what type of games you play with your divers to keep them involved?
We've been doing a bunch of different things. We've been doing separating everybody into two teams, and one team member from one team can challenge another team member. I think I can do a back 2.5 better than you can. And obviously it has to be dives that each member of the team can do. We've been doing, which I'm not a huge fan of, but they love it, jump, dive, or twist. So as they're dropping down in their hurdle, somebody screams out reverse, or so it's not jump or dive or twist, it's more a category. But they love it, and we've been doing that. And so just trying to keep everything really light. We've been doing 3 serious workouts where I write them a week, and then the other days it's kind of just, even we do stations, like there's a 1 meter station. That's not a game. I understand that. And then 3 meter and tower, like you're at that station for 20 minutes. You do whatever you think is going to benefit you at that point. So it's a kind of a less stress day. And then, so just kind of games like that. I can't think of, and we've been doing at least once a week we call it a mock meet, where we separate them into, I've got 11 divers. So sometimes it's, 2 teams, 3 teams, 4 teams, or whatever it is. And they have to do 3 dives, 1 meter, 3 dives, 1 meter, or 3 meter. And then, you do it on an Excel spreadsheet. So it's super easy to, calculate the scores, and they've really bought into that. So we have not done any Zoom meets yet. Luckily, we had a meet against University of Virginia 2 weeks ago. That I think, Joe, that's what you alluded to. But yeah, that's what we're doing.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry if there was another meet that your boys went 1, 2, 3, and 4 at, and maybe I'm mistaken.
No, that's the only one.
Okay, Rich, I just want to say thanks for calling in. I appreciate it. And
Thanks.
thank you. I appreciate
Absolutely.
the call in.
Now let me get my 3-year-old to bed.
Okay, good night.
Good luck.
Good to talk to you guys. Take care.
So, Megan, we have a couple questions from the audience.
Okay, great.
Dr. Susan Braid, who is also involved in diving, a Boston College diver once upon a time, wanted
Great.
to know a little bit more about structure and your strategy towards structure.
Okay, well, again, student athletes tend to be pretty structured folks because their day that used to be like school training or training school training again, and so the whole structure thing is like, okay, well, if it's not inherently built in, then build it yourself. And so I was particularly around like sleep cycles because the first thing that went once people didn't have to be at school at 7:30 or 8 in the morning or whatever was they were staying up really late and getting up really late. And so I said, let's first work on your sleep cycles and making sure that you're not too far askew from one day to the next, because that just really screws up a lot of things. It screws up your focus. It screws up your biorhythms or your circadian rhythms for sure, your daily rhythms. So the first thing I was saying is go to bed pretty consistently with pretty much within an hour. Like if you normally go to bed at 10, at least go to bed by 11 or, and then get up at about 7 or 8 or whatever. And that seemed to help because when people's structure went out the window, it just it creates more confusion. And so I would just taught them to just build the structure back in. And so I don't know if you had a more specific question about that. I'm happy to respond.
Well, Susan's much like you. She has a bunch of letters behind her name.
Yep.
So maybe, people like that thrive in structure better than others. I have another question. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. Can you identify these people?
What people?
Can you see your video? Is it up on your screen?
I'm gonna get out of sharing my screen and then maybe I can see people. Okay. So I think I ended this screen share, didn't I?
I think I've turned that off. Is this on
Okay.
everybody's screen or just mine? Kurt, can you see
I've,
it?
I've got it. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
Can you
So,
identify any of these cowboys?
well,
Yeah.
I'll ask other people, can they identify them? I know Kurt can.
Well, who's this
Yeah, I
guy
got
on
some
the
people.
right with the purse? And the guy on the
Uh,
left with the purse.
He's awful close to Dick
Mission
Kimball, so I don't
statement?
know.
yeah, well, the guy on the right's Ron O'Brien, and I think those were camera cases, just so
Oh,
you know.
okay. I'm sorry.
So we got cameras. So I think several people carried camera cases. And then the guy on the left is Randy Abelman. And
Yeah,
then next
with
to
hair.
Randy is Chris Seufert,
Yeah,
Schultes.
yeah.
Then Brian Bungham, who has been living in Sweden for many, many years. And in front of Brian is Cynthia Potter.
Wait. That's Cynthia Potter with the hat on. Wasn't she
We all
commentating the
have hats
1980 games?
So they all have hats on.
on. Cynthia's the one with her hand on the diving sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Cynthia, of course, 72, 76, 80 Olympic team. I think she was on the 68 team too. So 68, 72, 76, 80. And then beside her is Amy McGrath. And behind Amy McGrath is Dave Bergering. And then beside Amy McGrath is me. Behind me is Kevin Mockemer. And then beside me is Barbie Weinstein McGrath now. And then beside Barbie is Greg Louganis, and then Dick Kimball and Ron O'Brien.
Ah,
Good, you got them all.
very good.
Well, I'm not that far gone yet.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got to figure out how to get that off
Testing, 1, 2, 3. It's good.
and get rid of him. Okay. Okay, so if we have a couple more questions, Barbara Parker has talked about her high school and college events that she's doing online with a neat little program. Orly Gibson from South Australia has expressed what they're doing. And a couple thank yous and a bunch of I likes. So, Megan, I want to thank you very much for
Joe.
participating. This came out great. I know the technical end of it isn't very good, but our technical advisor and worker is not very good, and it's a reflection on him. Okay,
But he
and
works cheap. At
Kurt,
least he works cheap.
he works for free. Okay, and Kurt, thank you very much. And I know that we're all looking for a good future, the virus over, and a good future for U.S. diving and others. Okay, and for our sport, I know that you two have invested a lot of time, money, and effort, and I know I'm grateful for that, and I hope that people out there realize that. And we have a couple more live broadcasts coming up in the next couple of weeks. We're getting back in the swing of it. We took some time off, and now we have some new software that works a little bit better. And we're going to be doing some more of these broadcasts. So, Megan, thank you very much. You have anything in closing?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Just Joe, where are you going to post this information? And I just want to make sure that I think remind me what I already sent you two things you were going to post, and there was something else I said I would send, and I'm trying to remember what it was.
Well, it's going to be on the Diving Network, and then we're going to connect it and post it on Coaches for Flip and Rip, which is a very well attended stuff for coaches. We've filtered out most of the parents. We think there might be a few spies in there, but for the most part, it's a coaches forum to share ideas, and it is great. It's flip and rip for coaches. Okay.
Great. Fantastic.
So, Kurt, anything before we wrap up?
Yeah, Joe, thanks for doing this, Joe. I mean, I really appreciate you putting this together so quickly. And I think hopefully anybody that came by and saw it got some good information out of it. It's always helpful as we share information and just keep getting better as a community. So thanks for all the support that you do, Joe.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. You're welcome.